everyone, it's Shannon, aka QB Crossing, and today we are back with another speed build. So our last speed build really got me thinking how we are going to start connecting some areas on this island, and I really loved the entrance that we did last time, which we are standing in right now, and I thought that this would be really fun to show you guys how I connect some pathing and work with really large empty spaces. So at the entrance we actually have this little pathway going to the right, but if you head over to the left, we have this really large empty space right in front of resident services, and I think it'd be really fun to do some cool pathing over here, some really fun decorating, and I think that this will hopefully be inspiring if you have some large spaces on your island to fill. So if we take a look at the map where that rectangle is, that's what we're going to be working on today. But without further ado, let's get into the build. So the first thing that I want to do here is start connecting from the path that we already have. So I'm laying out some of this pathing here, and then I'm going to start playing with a diagonal that's actually leading to resident services. I think that I want to do a big diamond centerpiece in the middle since we have so many diagonal pieces to work with. So I always start with the outer edges. I find that it's easier to work this way and get an idea of how big you want your path to be. I also recommend playing around with this a little bit and seeing how many tiles you want on each side and how wide you want your path to be. So for instance, I have to make it a little bit bigger for this straight piece here where we have maybe 3 middle pieces, but for the sides I'm having this about 5 tiles long and then around 3 middle pieces. So you want to just see what you like and how kind of wide or skinny you want your path to be. But if you're doing a diamond, of course you're going to want it to be symmetrical on all sides. So once you figure out how wide you want it to be, you want to just continue that on each side of the diamond. So if I'm going with 5 on each side, I'm going to make sure that there's 5 on the other side as well. And again, I'm doing the outer pieces first because I find it easier to see it that way and then just fill it in afterwards. So for this diamond, it's pretty easy to lay out once you get your outer pieces there, and then you just continue and fill it out. I think I actually made the bottom side a little bit shorter. I only made it 4 tiles wide, but that was just kind of after some trial and error of how big I wanted the actual diamond to be. So if you want it more symmetrical, you can totally do that too. Like I said, it's all about kind of seeing what you like on your own island. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all of this in now and really get an idea of where I want it to kind of open up into these different angles. And then after we have the pathing down, it's really just about filling all of this in and figuring out what we want for decoration. So again, starting with those edges and filling in as much as I can, and it makes it so much easier to do it this way. At least for me, that's my favorite way to lay out this type of angular pathing. Also, it does take some time to get used to this pathing, so if it's annoying you at first, it will definitely get easier as you go along. So I've almost had my full diamond here, but I do want to make sure that I have the edges on the left side leading to another straight pathway. I'm thinking it would be nice for this to not just be a diamond in the middle of my island, but actually a fork in the road and 4 different pathways that you can take. So the bottom side I'll also want to open up, and I think it makes it a little bit more interesting to look at when you open up the sides like this, and then you can have them continue to other parts of your island. Like I said, I wanted this video to be a little bit about connecting paths, so I think it's always nice to keep in mind how you might want to connect this in the future and not just create these standalone centerpiece pathways, which are totally fine too if that's what you want to do. But if you're thinking about connecting some other areas of your island, that's an easy way to do it, and just make sure that you're always thinking about how it's going to connect and leaving some space for that as well. I really like working on like standalone areas of my island, but with this island I am trying to connect it as much as possible, so it's totally okay to work on some standalone areas and figure out how to connect it later. That's something I always do, so if it kind of is giving you burnout to worry about the whole flow of your island, definitely don't worry about it too much and just do what you want and figure out how to connect it later. There's always a way to connect all of your pathing. So for the centerpiece here, you can see I created a second diamond, which I think looks really nice, but I do also want to see if that's definitely how I want to keep the end result. You know me, and I love natural elements, so the thought of placing some trees in the center there sounds really exciting. So I wanted to at least show you that you can create really cool shapes with this path and have a secondary diamond in the center, which I think is really visually interesting. But you can see here that I decided to get rid of it and leave the center open. This way I can add in some trees and flowers and other shrubs, things like that, because my only thing with using a lot of structured pathing throughout an island is that I do still want this to have as many natural elements as possible, and I'm all about trying to find that right balance. So now we have the center open and our path is looking pretty good. So I'm gonna start by playing with the centerpiece. The first thing that I always do is place my trees because they have the most vertical height, and I like to swap on and off with hardwood and cedar trees and also play with the sizes. So I actually stunted that cedar tree to the right over there. So to stunt a tree, you just need to place a fruit behind it and it won't grow anymore, so that you can have different heights with your trees. It looks a lot more visually interesting than having all of the same size trees all throughout your island. As for the center, I actually thought it would be nice to use some elements and colors that I'm using throughout the rest of my island. So instead of doing like a fountain or something like that you might usually see on a centerpiece, I'm actually going with a garden wagon and a brick well. I also added this menu sign so it kind of looks like a flower shop. And then I'm just going to fill it out with like some pumpkins and garden benches on each side to really even out the space. I'm really trying to play with this like symmetrical look on top of some asymmetrical areas. So I think that this is really fun to kind of come out of my comfort zone a little bit, since I usually do mostly natural areas, but I'm loving this theme and I'm having so much fun with it. So after we have the centerpiece done, it's time to get on to the rest of the path and decorating around the path. So I added some hedges and some spooky fencing. You can do whatever fence type you want, whatever sort of natural elements fit your theme or your time of year that you're in. But if you're in fall like me, I love the white azalea bushes because they have that perfect fall color on them, and they're not that bright green that some other bushes will look when you plant them in fall. So they just match the whole color tone a lot better. As for the actual path, I really don't want to add too many elements on the path, so I added only things that felt really realistic, like a bike or the manhole cover. But you can play around, like I said, with whatever items you like the best or whatever you think fits your theme. So for me, I kind of always default to the mountain bike when in doubt, because I think it looks so good. Almost any theme you're doing is going to use the bike, so that's definitely one of my favorites. And then as for the sides, I do want to have as much greenery as possible. So again, I'm playing with the different heights of trees, different types of trees. And the really nice thing about being in autumn is that your trees are all different colors. So for me, I'm currently around like November 17th, and I love it because I have kind of lime green trees, orange trees, and then red trees. So it feels like I have such a nice variation of color, and then adding in those cedar trees adds that nice dark green as well. Other elements that I'm adding on the sides, like the phone box, and I think I'm going to play around with some spooky trees to add some more dimension and different tree types. But I think that the outer areas can be really simple, just focusing on really natural elements here. Like I said, it really depends on what you're going for. So if you have a different theme, maybe you can add some more pathing and stalls. If you want to go for more of a city or town look, also playing with some simple panels. But I really want this to feel like a cozy autumn town. So that's why I'm playing more with some of this leaf pathing that I love so much by Calling Crossing. And then just some, again, like greenery, which I think really balances out that structured path all throughout my island. And the other fun thing about adding in a lot of greenery throughout your island is that it makes filling in these areas a lot easier. You can be a lot more carefree with how you decorate, and it just for me is a little bit less stressful than trying to create every area really structured and symmetrical. So that's why I like to kind of do both of them. And I also am bringing in some more natural elements like street lamps, dropped items, anything that would make sense on an actual path. But again, I don't want to overdo it because I do want to make it as simple to walk around my island as possible. Since I am someone that usually did cottagecore themes and I did like clutter a lot, I still like clutter a lot, I'm trying with this island to really have it easy to get around, but still have that natural beauty that I love so much from cottagecore islands. So the rest of this build will really be me filling in some trees and other things that I think will look nice in these areas around the path. So for instance, I don't want to do too much of the same thing everywhere. So I'm going to try to play with some other items like pumpkins. I'm also grabbing some other items that I think might work here, like the garden faucet, and kind of mixing them in between all of the other greenery that I have going on. So you'll also notice that a lot of the items I'm using have the same color palette, and I obviously do that on purpose because I think your whole island will look much more cohesive if your theme is really clear throughout. So like I've said throughout this video, the items that you choose might change depending on whatever theme you're doing, but for me, I use a lot of brown and black and green items, so I really use the brick well a lot. I love that so much because it gives a little bit of height, but it also fits within the look that I'm going for. Same with that silo. And as I'm decorating this, I'm thinking so much about how I cannot wait for new items to work with when this update comes out on Friday. So I can't wait to share some builds once I have some new items to work with, but I still have fun with what we have now. So I'm just going to continue doing some finishing touches on this island and this little area over here. So probably just some spooky trees, some more little pathing on the areas throughout, and then some finishing touches on the path, and then I'll be back to talk about the final build. Okay, so here we are in the final area, and I had so much fun with this one. It was really out of my comfort zone to do such a structured area, but I think by leaving this centerpiece open and creating a more natural area in the center here, it definitely helps have that balance between the town and the more natural aesthetic that I'm used to. So I really like this flower shop in the middle, and I want to show you guys how this all connects from my entrance over here. So this is the entrance that we worked on last time, and you can see that the pathing completely connects over to resident services, which is over to the left this way. I really like that this diamond allows for different pathways and different ways that you can explore your island and continue adding on to this pathing. I also really wanted the resident services area to be accessible. So I'm super happy with how this came out. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!